Hello kiddos, welcome to Math for our online learning today. We are on lesson 21 in our fraction unit. And before we get started on our awesome fractions, let's go ahead and do something to warm up our brains. So here's a question that I have for you. What number makes the sentence below true? Now you can pause this video if you want to and get a piece of paper and a pencil to find the answer. Or maybe you know this mentally, but go ahead, pause the video if you need to, and then continue playing when you have the answer. Hopefully you said the number is 8. We've been working a lot on our 8s and our 3s, but what I would hope that you would think of is by looking at this, even though it is a multiplication, blank groups of 3 equals 24. You could also think of it as how many 3s are in 24. You could skip count by 3s, or many of you know your 8s, 8, 16, 24. All right, there is a fun video that you can watch. We will post this link for you if you'd like to watch it about fractions on a number line from Number Rock. But let's go ahead and get started with our lesson today. If we were in class together, we would be using our amazing fraction strips or the printout of these fraction strips that look something like this. That's what we would be using. So kind of keep this in your brain. And if you want to draw something like this, or if you have anything like this to use at home, that'd be great. You may want a piece of paper and a pencil. I would really suggest trying to find something to write with and a piece of paper just to help your learning from home today. All right, let's get started. So imagine that this is one of my paper strips, and that this strip represents one whole. So one whole strip. Now I have a second strip, and I have folded this strip to show halves. So we know halves. How many pieces do we need to make one whole? 2. Great job. Let's shade in 1/2, or the fraction would look like 1/2 for 1/2. Of our second fraction strip. So if you want on your piece of paper to go ahead and draw these with me, now would be a great time that you could pause it. You could draw these fraction strips on your piece of paper, shade in 1/2, and then continue with the video. Now if you've fractioned 1/2, if you've shaded in 1/2, hopefully it looks something like this, just like mine. Now I am thinking about how much space, the value that 1/2 has. And that's going to lead us into our lesson and our question today. Now, I have a third paper strip, and I have folded it to show fourths. How many pieces or copies of 1/4 do we need to shade in for the shaded amount to be equivalent to 1/2? So before we start shading, and some of you are already experts at this and your brain might already know what's equivalent, but let's go ahead and kind of think of this in a different way. Sometimes for me, when I think of equivalent and we're just looking at paper strips, it cannot mean the same thing. So sometimes I'll think of it as this way. I'll think of maybe I have 1/2 of a candy bar that I want to give to my sweet kiddos at home. And I want all of my kiddos to have the same amount of one candy bar. But I only have 1/2, and then the other pieces I have are fourths. So I have to think about how many fourth pieces that I would have to give. Maybe Dominic is getting the fourths and my son Darius is getting the half. I have to figure out how many fourth pieces Dominic needs so that he's getting the same amount or the same value as Darius. So, equivalent fractions are fractions that may have different numerators and denominators. So they may have different numbers. This is 1/4. These are 1/2, okay? But they represent the same value of the whole. They still have that, they take up that same amount of space, the same value of the whole candy bar. All right, so now let's look back at that question again. So how many pieces or copies of 1/4 do we need to shade in for the shaded amount to be equivalent, or the same value, same amount, as 1/2? I'd like you to go ahead and pause this video on your piece of paper go ahead and draw your fraction strip of fourths and see if you can shade in to see how many fourths you will need to make something equivalent to 1/2. Now let's check our work. Did you shade in 2 pieces like I did? Awesome. So here's our next step. Let's write the shaded fraction to the right of each fraction strip. Take a minute, write that on yours first. So think about what fraction have we shaded on this strip, and what fraction have we shaded in on this strip. Hopefully you found the same answers that I did. On this one we've shaded in 1/2, or one copy of 1/2, so I put 1/2 as my fraction for this fraction strip. And on the second one I shaded in 2 copies of 1/4. So my fraction would be 2, because I have 2 pieces of fourths, so 2/4. These fractions have different units. This one's halves, this one's fourths, and different numbers of pieces shaded. The top one has only 1 piece shaded, and the second strip has 2 pieces shaded. Are we sure they are equivalent? Yes, they are, because even though they have different numerator and denominators here, different numbers in the fractions, we can see with our eyes that they are taking up the same value, the same space of the whole. My boys, even though the pieces would be different, they would be getting the same piece of candy bar, even though one only gets 1 big chunk of half and the other gets 2 smaller pieces of fourths. So let's use number lines to see if these fractions are equivalent. If they are, they will stop at the same point on the number line. So we are going to label these number lines and plot the fractions on each number line. What I'd like you to do on your piece of paper, you can go ahead and pause the video. I would like you to draw 2 number lines. And remember, if we're going to compare fractions, we need our number lines to be the same size whole. So try to make 2 number lines like mine that are the exact same. Then when you're ready, go ahead and push play on the video again. All right, after you have done that, go ahead and take a minute to partition and show 1/2 on this top number line, and then show fourths on the bottom number line. Does yours look like mine? I went half of the way to 1 whole, and I put a tick mark and labeled it 1/2. And then I made 4 equal pieces of my number line here that started at 0 and went to 1 whole, and labeled it 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. We know 1 whole would be how many fourths? 4/4. That's right. All right. So when I'm looking at this, do you see that 1/2 and 2/4 stop at the same place on the number line? That's another great way that we can tell that these fractions are equivalent. So now, if you were to see something like this on your homework or on your exit ticket, they would say 1/2 is blank to 2/4. What symbol could we put here? Would we put greater than, less than, or equal? What do you think? Equal, that's right, because they are, after all, equivalent. They take up the same value of the whole. All right, on your own paper, draw a number line just like the 2 we've drawn. But this time, you're going to partition the whole into 8ths. So you can keep the 4th number line that you've already made, but draw 1 more on your paper underneath. It is the same size whole, and this time you're going to make 8ths. And we want to show how many 8ths would be equivalent to 2/4 on the number line. So go ahead and pause this video so that you can draw your number line, partition, and label it to show 8ths. Then push play again. All right, does yours look like mine? This was our same number line from the fourths, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Of course, this would be 4/4. But you'll see that I also partitioned my next number line into 8ths. There are 8 equal pieces of my number line, and I have labeled that if I go this far, I've traveled 1/8. If I go this far, I've traveled 2/8, and so on, 7/8, and then of course 1 whole would be how many 8ths? 8/8. Great job. So if I am looking at 2/4 on my number line, what spot would be equivalent on my 8ths number line? Did you find the same spot I did? I found that 4/8 on my number line would be equivalent, the same spot on the number line, as 2/4. So now my question is, how many eighths is going to be equivalent to 2/4? And what symbol would go down here in this circle? What do you think? 4/8 right here, 4/8. We could shade in this part on our fraction strip if we wanted to, but 4/8 is going to be the same spot on the number line and equivalent, take the same amount of value or space as 2/4. So if we have these at home or if we have them at school, these are going to be a great resource for you to be able to look with your eyes and see 1/2, 2/4. I see 4/8. Could you see how many sixths would be equivalent to 1/2? 3/6. That's right. All right, this is your exit ticket today. Claire went home after school and told her mother that 1 whole, so imagine 1 whole fraction strip in your head, is the same as 2/2 and 6/6. Her mother asked why, but Claire couldn't explain. Use a number line and words to help Claire show and explain why 1 is equivalent to 2/2 and equivalent to 2/6. So even though these fractions have different numbers, they're all equivalent to 1 whole. We would like you on your exit ticket to draw number lines and to label them and show me how you can prove that 2/2 and 6/6 is the same thing as 1 whole. The last step will be to click the microphone and explain your thinking. Thank you guys. You've done a great job today. I can't wait to see your exit tickets. Have a great rest of the day.